We are starting our hearing, which is a joint hearing between the Committee on Human Services and the Committee on Corrections, Military, and Veterans. My name is Lisa Martin. I'm here with my Vice Chair, Teresa Mato, and we have from CMV Chair Mark Hashem and Vice Chair Corey Chen, and our members who are trickling in. It's 8:45, Tuesday, February 6th, in Conference Room 329, and we have a single bill on the agenda, and it is relating to childcare, expands the existing state exemption for the U.S. DoD certified providers to those operating off federal property. And our first testifier is from the U.S. Department of Defense. Is Kelly with us on Zoom? Oh, not present. Okay. Okay. Go ahead, Kelly, if you're able.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, I'm sorry, I missed it. This is Kelly Mae Douglas with DOD. Did you call on me?
Yes, I did. Please go ahead.
Okay. Sorry, I was trying to connect. Good morning, chairs, vice chairs, and committee members. My name is Kelly Mae Douglas, and I'm representing the United States Department of Defense in support of HB 2227. I will stand on my written testimony, but wanted to make a few clarifying comments if I could. We appreciate the Department of Human Services support and willingness to work with us, the Department of Defense, on this important measure that will increase childcare options for military families in Hawaii. The companion bill was heard last week and passed. I just wanted to address a few of the questions that DHS raised related to oversight of DoD certified family childcare homes operating off of federal property. We believe we can easily address the questions provided and are happy to do so offline in more detail. But in short, just wanted to state that the intent of this proposed policy change is to provide an exemption only for those family child care providers who are exclusively serving DoD-affiliated families, and that DoD would continue to provide oversight and in equal measure as is provided to those providers that are living on base. And so if DHS would like, we can work together to maybe add some clarifying language just to specify that, and that if a family child care provider is serving civilian children as well, that they would still need to meet all of the same requirements for child care payment and state licensing. With that, I'll open up for questions, or I can meet with anyone within DHS to address some of those specific recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have next, do we have in-persons from Department of Human Services? Perfect.
Good morning, Chair Martin, Chair Hashem, and members of the committee. My name is Scott Morishige. I'm the administrator of the Benefit, Employment, and Support Services Division at DHS. The department offers comments and stands on our written testimony requesting clarification. I appreciate the DoD responding to some of our concerns on the measure heard in the Senate, and we're open to having continuing dialogue with the Department of Defense. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. We also had written testimony in support from the Hawaii Military Affairs Council and from the Hawaii Chamber of Commerce. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure in person or in Zoom? Seeing none, members, are there any questions or comments? CMV side, none? Okay. Then we do have quorum, so we'll go ahead and take the vote on this. The chair recommends passing this with some small amendments to address the concerns raised by DHS and that DoD has already stated they are happy to comply with. So on page 3, line 3, we'll insert that this exemption for the U.S. DOD is, quote, provided that any facilities with clients who are not children of enlisted families or who receive Hawaii Department of Human Services child care subsidies will have a memorandum of agreement with the Hawaii Department of Human Services regarding operation of the facility. And with that, Vice Chair, please go ahead and take the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning. We're voting on HB 2227. Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Representative Bellotti, excused. Representative Iligan. Aye. Representative Kobayashi.
Aye.
Representative Takanuchi.
Aye.
Representative Nishimoto, excused. Representative Garcia.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Right, CMV Committee, same recommendation. Any comments or concerns? Seeing none, Chair Hashem for the vote.
Okay, Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Ganadin is excused. Ichiyama?
Aye.
Mizuno is
Aye.
Oh, you're here, okay. Morikawa?
Aye.
Poi Poi?
Aye.
Takayama?
Aye.
Souza?
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members.
We are adjourned.
Aloha kakahiaka. Welcome to our joint meeting between Committee on Water and Land and Committee on Human Services. It is Tuesday, February 6, 2024. We are on our 8:46 a.m. agenda in conference room 329. Okay, we're just going to get straight into our agenda, starting on House Bill, our only measure, House Bill 2429. And we have Kathy Betts, Department of Human Services, in person to testify.
Good morning, Chair, Committee. My name is Trista Spear. I'm a Deputy Director for the Department of Human Services, and I appear today on behalf of Director Betts. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee with regards to this bill. The Department is in strong support of this administration measure. We stand on the testimony that was submitted, but in sum, this position in this bill is vital to ensure the success of the Department of Human Services is able to keep responding to the unfortunate emergencies that our state continues to see month after month or year after year. While we would hope that there would not be any additional emergencies in the future, to be realistic, we know that they will come. The department, as you know, has led efforts on behalf of the state, not only with the COVID-19 response, emergencies related to hurricanes, volcanoes, potential tidal waves, or other tsunamis that we could have in the future, but specifically and currently leading many of the efforts in the response to the tragic wildfires that devastated Maui and Lahaina in August of last year. The position that is requested as a part of this bill will be vital to ensure we can develop strategic planning and policy as well as programs moving forward so that we can quickly respond to the needs of the people of Hawaii when there is an emergency and to allow us to continue to do so and address the human services that arise with any tragedy. Pending any questions, that is the testimony of the department. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the only person signed up to testify. Is there anyone else wishing to testify? Okay, seeing none, members' questions? Okay, we will recess for decision making.
No recess. Oh, just roll into DM.
Okay, we're going to go into DM.
Okay. Good morning, Waterland members. Recommendation is to pass out House Bill 2429 as a House Draft 1. We are going to defect the date to the year 3000. We're going to blank out the dollar amount and put it into the committee report. Technical non-substantive amendments. And then also, we are going to clarify on page 2, lines 11 through 12, that the procurement exemption is not to exceed 5 years upon approval of this act. Waterland members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, Vice Chair, House Draft 1.
Okay, voting on HB 2429 with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Chun? Representative Ganadin? Excused. Representative Hashem? Aye. Representative Mizuno? Aye. Representative Morikawa?
Aye.
Representative Takayama?
Aye.
Representative Souza? Aye. Measure is adopted. Recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members.
Thank you very much. Now the chair has the exact same recommendation for the Committee on Human Services. Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on HB 2429, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Chair and Vice Chair both voting aye. Representative Bellotti, excused. Representative Iligan. Aye. Representative Kobayashi.
Aye.
Representative Takanuchi.
Aye.
Representative Nishimoto, excused. Representative Garcia.
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, we're adjourned.
Adjourned.
Good morning. This is the Committee on Human Services, Tuesday, February 6th, 9:30 a.m. or so, in Conference Room 329. My name is Lisa Martin, I'm the chair. I'm here with my Vice Chair, Teresa Mato, and Representative Kobayashi. And we will get started with our first measure, which is HB 2713, about adoption assistance. And do we have the Department of Human Services in person? Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. I am Eladine Olival. I am the Child Welfare Services Branch Administrator. The Department of Human Services supports this bill and offers comments. We stand by written testimony. If there's any questions, I am available to answer.
Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this bill? Okay, nobody else had signed up. Members, are there any questions? Nope, I do have a question. Thank you so much for coming today. So I see a need for providing services even after a child from foster care gets placed in permanent custody, because those children have been so traumatized or abused or neglected in some way, which is how they ended up in that spot. And it can be very challenging for the new parent or permanent guardian. With your existing program, how, I know that there is some funding for existing services. Are those services used to the full extent that they are available? Do you have excess capacity, or do you have excess demand? What is the situation right now?
So we do have a post-permanency services, and whether we can fill the need that's there, we could always use more support to that service. The capacity, though, of the staff, we are unable to sort of meet that specific need at this time, but there is a service, a post-permanency services.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, thank you. We'll move on to our next item on the agenda, which is HB 2428, regarding the Child Protective Act. And
What about number 2?
I'm sorry? Am I in the wrong one? Okay, wait, hold on. We've had a lot of hearings today already. This is our fourth. Let me get the agenda for this one. Here we go. All right. So next up is HB 2426, relating to relative resource caregivers. It clarifies when a relative seeking to be a resource caregiver for a child is entitled to an administrative repeal. And we have up first the Department of Human Services. Please go ahead.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. Eladine Olival, representing the Department of Human Services. The department supports this administrative measure, and we stand by written testimony. And any questions, I am available to answer.
Thank you very much. Next, we have on Zoom the Attorney General. Are they with us? Oh, in person, fantastic. Please.
Thank you, Chair Martin, and members of the committee. The Department of the Attorney General stands in strong support of this measure. I will be honest, I am the Deputy Attorney General who most often has to file a motion to dismiss the administrative hearings when relatives get confused and file for an administrative hearing that's not available to them. So I strongly support clarifying this particular measure, this particular statute, so that families understand where they need to go and where they need to advocate for placement of children.
Thank you very much.
And I'm available to answer.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure on Zoom or in person? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? Yeah, we're good. Your testimony was very clear for the need for this, so thank you very much. Okay, moving on to our next measure, 2428, relating to the Child Protective Act, which is adding the definition for exigent circumstances and clarifying the department's being able to assume temporary foster custody of a child. And first up, we have the Department of Human Services. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and committee members. Eladine Olival, Child Welfare Services, a branch administrator. The Department of Human Services supports this administration measure and offers comments, and we stand by written testimony. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much. And next up, we have the Judiciary, State of Hawaii. Thank you.
And good morning, Chair Martin, Vice Chair Amato, and members of the committee. I'm Brian Costa. I'll be testifying today with regard to Judiciary's position with regard to the bill. We have submitted written testimony, and we're going to stand on that. However, I would like to emphasize a few points. Respectfully, Judiciary is going to request that the committee defer this bill. Senate Bill 2245 was recently considered by the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services, and it passed with amendments that were suggested by both Judiciary and also the Attorney General's office. Both that bill and this bill seeks to prevent a very important issue, and that being children being removed from the home unnecessarily. We all know that that causes trauma. While it's absolutely necessary at times, it does cause trauma to these children. So we want to prevent that if at all possible. Now, a police officer does need to be able to remove a child for exigent circumstances. So if there's something that's immediate that has to be done before one can get into court, the police officer has to have that option. Now, in the event that, how this bill actually differs from the other bill is that the other bill requires a petition to be filed. And then we suggest the testimony that an ex parte motion be submitted along with that. We believe that is the proper avenue. That's going to invoke the court's jurisdiction, provide us with critical information, the investigation of the Department of Human Services, what was in fact done to prevent the child from being removed from the home. It's going to trigger a hearing to be set with no later than 2 days, appointment of counsel for indigent parents. It makes sense that this follows the same path as certain other, sorry, I'm noticing my time, certain other cases that we have, such as divorce cases, paternity cases, where there's an initiating document and then there's an ex parte motion that is filed thereafter for the court to act on. So respectfully, we request that you defer this bill. If not, if it's going to pass out, then we ask that you adopt our amendments. And thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'll be here to answer any questions.
Thank you, and thank you very much for coming today. Next up, we have the Attorney General's office in person again.
Yes, thank you, Chair Martin and members of the committee. The Department of the Attorney General stands in support of this administration bill. We recognize that there's a need to include in our laws a provision to allow these court orders, well, they're currently allowed, but we want to make sure that the legal authority for them and the clarity on how to get them is put into the legislation, is put into our statutes, so that we can invoke the cooperation and oversight of the family court earlier on in the process.
Thank you for that. We also have the Department of Human Services in, oops. Am I on my right one? Okay. Nope. No, we have one individual in support. Is there anybody else who wishes to testify in person or on Zoom on this measure? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? So I appreciate the detailed feedback and all the testimony given in writing, and we will take that under consideration. Okay, next we are moving on to HB 2405 relating to peer support specialists to establish a working group for a statewide framework. And first up for that, we have the Hawaii State Department of Health in person.
Good morning, Chair Martin and Vice Chair Amato and committee members. I am Amy Naylor. I am the Program Specialist for Adult Mental Health Division. The state stands in support of its written testimony and in support of this bill.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation in person, in support.
Hi, good morning, Chair Martin, Vice Chair Mato. My name is Melanie Martin. I am the Deputy Director for Administration with DCR. We stand on our written testimony in support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have the Office of Wellness and Resilience, Office of the Governor, in support in person. Welcome.
Good morning, Chair Martin, Vice Chair Mato, and members of the committee. Tia Hartsock, Executive Director, Office of Wellness and Resilience in the Office of the Governor. Excited for this bill, stand in strong support, find the importance of integrating peer supports throughout the systems. Our state systems is going to be critical as we move forward in the response to the mental health, people with lived experience, the mental health crisis, which includes people that are in existing systems, the judiciary, the criminal justice system, the mental health system, mental health needs in the Department of Education, the child welfare, and all of Department of Human Services, adult services as well. Looking at this type of a working group, to me and to our office, to expand the way in which people with lived experience can inform how programs look, inform, and connect with people who are experiencing similar types of trauma and similar types of experiences as they integrate and navigate through the systems is a critical part of how healing happens, of how recovery happens, and of how the systems work together with community members. Very excited to encourage the passing of this bill. Here for any questions. Thank you for allowing me to testify.
Thank you very much. We have also the Department of Human Services in support, but they didn't sign up to testify in person. Is there somebody wanting to testify in person on that? No. And then in addition, we have one individual, Kimberly Takata, in person support.
Good morning, everyone. So I am in
If
support.
you could just state your name first.
My name is Kimi Takata, and I work for the Pu'a Foundation. I'm also the president of Pacific Peer Connections. I'm in support of this bill because I am a peer support. I sent in my testimony, so I don't need to read it. But like Tia said, yeah, I believe in peer support because we can, people with lived experience can fill the gap. And and my vision is to see peer support in courts, next to a police officer, where people have struggled or, for me, I'm speaking with experience because I spent 15 years in prison. But today, I've been out since 2014. I so far got my degree in Kapiolani Community College. I also went to Chaminade and got my bachelor's degree in EMV. And now I'm going to get my master's at Chaminade University for criminal justice. So I believe in this peer support specialist. Any questions, you can ask me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in person on this or on Zoom on this measure? There was an additional, we had a lot of written testimony in support from the judiciary, early childhood action strategy. Epo Kohana, actually 4 people weighed in. They already have a peer support program. Hawaii Youth Services Network, NAMI Hawaii, HCAN Speaks, and an additional 8 individuals, all weighing in support. Members, are there any questions?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Chair.
Is there anyone from Medicaid here or DHS? Tia, you might be the best person on this. I really appreciate that you're looking at this working group. And I just want to read something to you. And I think if there's any way we can strengthen one of the requirements of what this working group is to look at, I think it's really important. This is from the Center for Medicaid and State Operations website, I believe. Yes, Medicaid reimburses for peer support services delivered directly to Medicaid beneficiaries with mental health and/or substance use disorders. Medicaid reimburses. So you guys have heard it from me a lot, that we need to braid resources when we can draw down 60-40, 50-50, where the federal government is paying for much of this, and we have a waiver that's looking at how to involve justice-involved folks. I really think you need to make sure that there is focus, not just on how we award for peer services in state contracts, but how we integrate it through the Medicaid delivery system, because again, this has huge impacts on mental health, on the criminal justice system, on homelessness, and states are struggling with this, but states are figuring it out.
Yep.
So please,
Absolutely.
my ask to you is, can you do that?
Definitely, yeah, thank you.
Thank
Also, in the struggle that you've been hearing in a lot of hearings is the workforce shortage, our ability to respond to vacant positions. And with this type of an effort and looking at expanding how peer specialists can integrate into those professional settings, with certification, with training, and with the ability to get reimbursed by the Medicaid contract, we feel as if this is one of a solution, not the solution, but a solution to part of the workforce shortage. So definitely looking into that piece as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
And you may want to contemplate adding someone from the judiciary.
Sorry?
You may want to contemplate adding someone to the judiciary from this, to this working group if it's not there already.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, members? Seeing none, we will move on to our next measure. HB 2555, relating to the Child Protective Act. This amends the definition of aggravated circumstances and requires a service plan to include an evaluation assessing a parent or the primary aggressor in a domestic violence case. And first up, we have testifying via Zoom or in person, the Attorney General.
Good morning, Chair Martin and members of the committee. I'm Deputy Attorney General Erin Torres. The department submitted testimony with comments suggesting amendments to this bill. First, the definition of aggravated circumstances in Section 1 of the bill contravenes the purpose of the Child Protective Act because it would prevent many families from having an opportunity to address their safety issues and reunify with their children. This may also be subject to constitutional challenge as violating the Due Process Clause of both the U.S. and Hawaii state constitutions. We also request an amendment to Section 2 of the bill to clarify its intended purpose. Thank you for the opportunity to testify this morning, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. DHS, please.
Good morning. Eladine Olival, Child Welfare Services. The Department of Human Services appreciates the intent of this bill and offers its comments and concerns. We stand by written testimony.
Thank you very much. We also have in person Christopher Hong or Peggy Hong. Do we have? Is that? Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Peggy Hong. I'm a grandparent, and I appreciate it if the committee would let my husband stand with me. We submitted our testimony this morning and wanted to summarize for you what this bill is for us personally. 1 year ago, I don't know if some of you remember us, we stood here on February 2nd to tell you the story of how our daughter had taken her life because of domestic and family abuse. We had also told you the story of how our twin grandchildren had been failed by child welfare and against family and friend objections, returned them when they were 11 years old to the abusive father. Okay, we testified February 2nd. We returned home that evening to find that that very night, February 2nd, 2023, our grandchildren had run away from the father. At 5:30 in the afternoon on February 2nd last year, the 6'2", 200-pound father, two-fisted, punched our grandson in the chest, knocking him over, nearly cracking his head open. When our young grandson, now 13, tried to call for help, 911, the father took the cell phone away and destroyed it. He talked to his twin sister, and at 7:30 at night, they decided they had had enough of 2 years of abuse, and they ran away. They were living on the side of a hill, and rather than running down the hill, they knew the father would be after them in their truck. They ran up the hill to a grove of trees, down the hill past the homeless encampment, across the street. They were in Kapa'a. If you're familiar with Kapa'a Beach, there's a boardwalk. They were running along the boardwalk, and they could see the father in his truck looking for them. You imagine yourself as an adult being attacked, running away in the dead of night, and being chased by your attacker. Now think, two 13-year-olds in that similar situation. They managed to get to their Hanai auntie's home. Rather than take them to the Kapa'a police, she decided she would take them to the Lihui police station and drove them to be safe. Lihui police called child welfare, and 3 days later, our grandchildren had a forensic interview. And if anyone is interested, I have their written pages of how they had been abused by their father over their lives, and especially over the last 2 years when Oahu Child Welfare returned them to the father over the objections of family and friends. If child welfare had done a proper assessment and was cognizant of domestic and family abuse, our grandchildren would not have to been terrorized for 2 years by this man, pulling their hair out by the roots, threatening to kill them, calling them names, hitting them, punching them. As 11-year-olds, they couldn't face him. Once they turned 13 and they were older, they decided enough and they ran off. Why hadn't they called for help earlier? Because child welfare returned them initially to the father in the first place. There was no trust. We know there are legal issues with constitutionality and all this legalese about what is legal and what is not legal, if it's too broad or not too broad. From a personal grandparent standpoint, child welfare is unable to assess domestic and family violence and how it impacts children. This bill is meant to address that, to require child welfare to make an assessment when there is family and domestic violence. We quote in our testimony the WHO, which basically says there is not only psychological damage, there is brain damage to young children who are involved in violence in the home. It affects them cognitively, it affects them physiologically, even their nervous system is impacted. I have this saying that pay me now or pay me later. I don't know if you've heard that before. We either face and fix child welfare and address the domestic and family violence impact on young children, or they will grow up to be adults and we will pay them through their incarceration, their mental health issues, or as the report says, children who have been abused are 10 times more likely to be abusers in the future. We thank you for your time and for listening to our story. We really would like something done to address family and domestic violence against vulnerable children.
Thank you. Sorry for the suffering of your family. Thanks for coming to testify today. Is there anybody else wishing to testify on this measure in person or on Zoom? Seeing none, committee members, are there any questions? I know there are a lot of unresolved details for this bill, and it is being worked on. It's definitely a work in progress. We'll move on to our next bill. HB 1661, relating to the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which would expand eligibility to people whose income is equal to or less than 300% of the federal poverty level. And first up, we have the Department of Human Services with comments.
Good morning, Chair and Vice Chair and esteemed committee members. My name is Jeanette Hayes with the Department of Human Services, Benefit Employment and Support Service Division, and I oversee the SNAP program. The department appreciates the intent of this bill and provides comments and requests some clarification, and stand on our testimony and will be available for comments. And thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Aloha United Way and support in person.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Kayla. I'm here on behalf of Aloha United Way, the Alice Initiative, and the 211 Helpline, and we stand in support of HB 1661 to increase SNAP eligibility to 300% of the federal poverty level. AUW's 211 Helpline has been a primary entity conducting SNAP pre-screenings in our community for the last 6 years. In 2023 alone, 211 received over 1,500 SNAP requests, 629 of which came from Kapuna. And of all of those, only 228 were deemed eligible, leaving the other 1,200 households without access to these benefits. The primary reason for ineligibility among citizens is that their income level exceeds the current cap. Access to food remains the second most requested need by callers to 211. Shortly after the Maui wildfires, our state implemented Disaster SNAP, or DSNAP, for those impacted by that catastrophe, expanding eligibility to survivors who would otherwise not qualify. But this was deemed acceptable and even applauded because it was a time of crisis. But right now, in our state, 1 in 4 keiki go hungry every day, and that is also a crisis. Feeding America estimates that of the 170,000 people experiencing hunger in our state, 55% of them make more than the current cap of 200% FPL. That's just over 94,000 people here locally who are experiencing hunger, but who make too much to qualify. So we urge you to support HB 1661 and prevent families and individuals from that benefits cliff that is causing households to be worse off due to an increase in their income. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have in person the Hawaii Public Health Institute.
Aloha, Nate Hicks with Hawaii Public Health Institute. I have some charts. If you don't mind, I'm going to pass these up for you. So to echo the thoughts of the Aloha United Way, the 200% federal poverty line is too low to help families survive here in Hawaii. There are families that are bumping up against this cliff that are set to lose $10,000 or more per year just by making a few extra dollars per month or per year. And so they're faced with a tough situation. Either they're stuck in poverty, earning well below the cost of living, and they're turning down raises, they're turning down extra opportunities to work to improve themselves. And so you have this big benefits cliff where people are literally stuck and are saying, this is just going to be my life forever. I'm always going to be poor and struggle to survive because I don't have the opportunity to better myself. If we increase the federal poverty level threshold to 300% of the federal poverty line, that should be at or near the current cost of living, so families can gradually decrease their benefits as they improve themselves. And so we know food insecurity is a massive problem. It leads to massive health impacts, right? You're going to have stress, depression, chronic diseases. And so if we take this opportunity to build a pathway out of poverty, it can increase the benefits for not just our population who needs it, but for society as at large, because we'll have a much more healthy, productive society. Thank you very much for your time, Aloha.
Thank you very much. Next, we have on Zoom the Hawaii Food Industry Association.
Good morning,
ahead,
Chair, Vice Chairs, members of the committee. I'm Alexis Chapman for HFIA. We are in strong support of this measure. As previous testifiers have pointed out, the simple fact is that many people in Hawaii who need assistance just don't qualify under the current terms. We also believe that this measure is, as previous testifiers have noted, extremely important in alleviating some of the negative consequences of the benefits cliff that currently exists. I'm available for any questions, and thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. In addition, we have written testimony and support from Hawaii Appleseed Center for Law and Economic Justice, the Democratic Party of Hawaii, Catholic Charities Hawaii, Hawaii State Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks, and 17 individuals. Is there anyone else on Zoom or in person who wanted to testify on this measure? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? I have some questions for the Department of Human Services, please.
Thank you.
So there are, as your testimony noted, there's a lot of work that hasn't been done on this bill. We don't know what the cost would be at all. Where would we get the data to find out, like who would qualify? Would that be DOTAX, or how would we find out who would qualify for this program to get some idea of the number and what the cost would be?
It may be a combination between DOTAX, possibly also with Department of Labor, right, in terms of wages for that information. Right now, the department does not have that information readily available in terms of who would meet that sort of gap group between the 200 and 300 over the FPL. So it would require some time for us to be able to do the research and then find within government what the partner agencies would be to help us to find that, identify those households. Because the other thing to consider is the income cliff includes not just earned income, but unearned income. So annually we go through a mass change. If there are benefits that are determined basically for Social Security Administration, because they will increase it, that would be another pocket of people that would fall into that category.
Okay. And then secondly, what would you noted that there would be costs for your department to administer this. What are some of those costs? What do you think the needs would be?
So we are currently in the process of updating our eligibility system. We've been in this process probably for the last decade. With the change to some of the tables as is referenced in this bill, there would need to be system modifications. We're currently at the point of final acceptance testing for that system rollout, with the estimated date for statewide rollout to be in August of this year. In order for us to be able to even look at the modifications after we've defined the eligibility criteria, as well as what would deem someone being ineligible for this benefit, all of that would need to go into program development as well as policy development, rule revisions, or a new rule write-up to be able to capture this benefit program. So costs would be there. Also, with the increase in the caseload, as one of the other groups testified, we have a huge vacancy rate that we would need to be able to have sufficient staff to be able to accommodate the increase in this caseload so that families are able to be serviced both timely and effectively to be able to have access to this benefit.
So it's not that you would need new staff positions, you would need to fill existing unfilled positions.
In addition to potentially adding more positions depending on what the actual caseload count would be. So at the very minimum, it would be for us to fill those vacancies, in addition to identifying if that's the sufficient number of staff that DHS would require to be able to meet the need for this increased caseload.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to our next measure.
Excuse me.
Oh, you have a question? I'm sorry. Please go
For
ahead.
DHS SNAP. I'm wondering how long all of these things will take. You're talking about implementation and operating costs, talking about system development, you're talking about new rules, new administrative process, and then you talk about a new eligibility system in fall of this year, August. Is that it?
That's correct.
So if we pass the bill with this $50 million item, you'll be okay?
I don't know that in terms of, if you're asking for the timeline for us to be able to implement it within this particular calendar year, I don't believe that that would be achievable. It would have to happen within, more than likely, the next state fiscal year for us to implement.
Next fiscal year.
I believe so, at the very earliest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, members? Okay. Then we are moving on to our next measure, which is also related to SNAP, HB 2181, which would establish a program recipient advisory committee to do more outreach and recruitment of eligible families. And first up, we have the Department of Human Services.
Good morning again to the Chair, Vice Chair, and the committee. Jeanette Hayes, Department of Human Services, SNAP program. The department appreciates the intent of this bill and again requests clarification and offers comments. We will be available here for questions, and thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have the Office of Hawaiian Affairs in support, in person.
Aloha, Chair Martin, Vice Chair Amato, and members of the committee. My name is Kaylee E. Nixon. I'm a public policy advocate with the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, and we will be standing on our written testimony. Mahalo for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have the Hawaii Public Health Institute in person, in support.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Nate Hicks with Hawaii Public Health Institute, stand in support of this bill and want to highlight that people who are experiencing SNAP have a lot of knowledge and understanding of what systems are maybe not working or what are working very well, and can help inform and develop a better system. In addition, having them take this time out of their day to help the state improve their systems is worth payment too. So Oregon has done this to much success, and so we can just follow their lead and allow people the opportunity and time to be involved in the improvement process. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have the Hawaii Food Industry Association on Zoom.
Good afternoon again, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm Alexis Chapman for HFIA. We stand on our testimony and support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also have an individual signed up for Zoom. Zahava Zadoff, is she here? Please go ahead.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be here. My name is Zahava Zadoff. I live on the Big Island of Hawaii. I am a recipient of SNAP. I do work kind of at the national level. I'm trying to work here in Hawaii from the lived experience perspective. Not only do I stand in support of this bill, I think that I may have been one of the reasons that this bill was written and introduced to begin with. What I really want to say is there are things that you don't know about the SNAP process that I know and people like me are aware of, and the rest of the general public is not. I recently had to call the SNAP helpline. I wonder if the people that are here right now, the people who may watch the video, our legislators are aware that every 3 minutes a recording will come on and say, thank you for calling and thank you for holding. And then it will say, we are experiencing high call volume. Please press the number 1 to leave a message, the number 2 for a callback, or the number 3 to remain on hold. It then repeats that message If you do not hit one of the buttons, it disconnects you. That recording comes up every 3 minutes. 3 days ago, I was washing dishes twice with my soapy hands, right? Trying to reach for my phone to hit the number 3. And I got disconnected after an hour and 18 minutes and got to call back because I couldn't hit the button fast enough. These are things that I know that you may not be aware of. On the website for signing up, you can apply now at any time, 24 hours a day. But Renew My Benefits is only available from 6:30 a.m. to 5:45 p.m. Monday through Saturday. So by the time I get home from work, if I already began applying, I can't hit the Renew My Benefits button because it's not available when many parents and people are home. Yesterday, there was a statewide outage. On social media, hundreds of people were taking the day off work to walk into offices. People were sitting on hold with their newborns and their toddlers for hours. There are things that could have been done that people like me are aware of that you may just not have thought of. The agency may not have thought of. Had the agency sent an email to all of the elected officials, a quick email, the system is down, every elected official would have had the opportunity to go to social media or send out an email blast and let their constituents know the system's down, we're working on it. Had a quick automated message been added to the call center that said, the statewide system is down right now, this message will be removed when the system is working, it would have saved people hours on hold. I do not fault the agency. I do not fault the legislators. There is literally nobody that I am upset at. But the reality is, I still have not received my benefits from January. Been to the office 3 times, been on hold a total of 8 hours due to no fault of my own. There's a labor shortage. Everyone is struggling, and I understand that. Had I not had the ability to save $700 over the last couple of months, my family wouldn't have eaten last month. People with lived experience as an advisory council can share this information, and some of these pieces cost absolutely nothing. I have no doubt that had I had access to somebody in the Department of Human Services yesterday morning when the system was down and said, hey, maybe send a mass email out to the legislators so they could let us know, that somebody would have done it. Everybody who works in this field cares, and I know that. But I am an expert in lived experience when it comes to SNAP and several other things. And I know that there's no other commissions and committees at the state level that we pay. I know that there's fear sometimes amongst legislators that if we pay this one body, everyone else is going to ask for payment. But the reality is, and I mean this with every bit of respect, I don't owe you my trauma, and neither does anybody else with trauma around food security owe it to people for free. We're not looking to come in and give feedback with this advisory council or this advisory committee. What we're looking to do is partner with the agency as experts with information that other people would not know. And the payment here, what it does is it shows that you respect us as partners in this work, as opposed to 8-year-olds who are stepping in and complaining about an issue and then going back behind closed doors trying to fix it. We want to help be part of the solution. Thank you so much for your time, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee.
Thank you very much for your advocacy. That is it for those that signed up to speak in person. Is there anyone else who would like to testify on this measure? Then, in addition to, we had testimony and support in writing from the Democratic Party of Hawaii and 7 other individuals. So, members, are there any questions? Go ahead.
Question for DHS. Oh.
Good morning, Representative Bellotti. Scott Morishige, Division Administrator for Benefit Employment and Support Services Division.
Thank you. In your testimony, there's reference to a Financial Assistance Advisory Council pursuant to Section 346-14.5. When was the last time that council met?
The council has not met in some time, but we are working with the director's office to reconvene it. And as noted in our testimony, the application process and procedures for financial assistance benefits and for SNAP benefits it uses the same common application and the same general process.
I will note, I just did a quick Google search of the Financial Assistance Advisory Council. The last time the meetings were posted
was November 5th, 2015. This is in statute. I understand how this might conflict, but, I think that there's clearly a need. Comment, but then final question, how much of SNAP actually gets drawn down and how much gets left?
I'm going to call on my assistant administrator to help me respond to that.
The funding itself is directly from the federal government, from FNS, 100% federal funded. Hawaii draws down approximately about 60 million in SNAP benefits on a month. So we actually do draw down quite a bit. As far as what gets left, because it's a direct draw from the federal government, it's really not. There's a number that the government kind of uses for Hawaii, but it's not a really hard number. So I wouldn't necessarily say that we leave anything behind at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay, I understand that, but in aggregate, what is around that number? Because I guess if the problem is that if it's 100% federally funded and we're missing individuals who are eligible and are struggling to get through the process, as we've heard, then it means we're leaving money on the table and people are going hungry. And so that is the challenge, right? So if we were to implement a council like this that met more than since 2015 and could focus on this issue and get folks to maybe draw down more monies to put food into their bellies, how much are we potentially talking about? A roundabout figure? You don't know, you can't say?
Yeah, again, I'm sorry, I can't say. Again, the way the federal government does is it looks at our historic spending and sort of earmarks that amount for the state. If we exceed it, we exceed it. So there is no, so we would need to discuss it with the FNS folks there, but ultimately,
if we exceed it,
they go ahead and adjust it for that fiscal year.
And it goes up.
Correct.
And it enables us to get more monies, federal monies, into the state for food for our families.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you to the testifiers. We're moving on to our next measure, which is an administration measure, HB 2430, relating to summer electronic benefits transfer for children. And first up, we have the Department of Human Services in support.
Good morning again, Chair, Vice Chair, members. Scott Morishige, Administrator for Benefit, Employment, and Support Services Division. DHS strongly supports this administration measure. It would really be a critical tool to help reduce hunger and food insecurity for Hawaii's children during the summer. We also wanted to note error on page 2 of our testimony in paragraph 3. So the benefit per month per child is actually $59 a month and not $177 per month. But thank you for the opportunity to testify, and we're available for any questions.
Thank you. Next up, we have the Department of Education. Do we have DOE here? No? Okay. We also had Hawaii Appleseed here in person? No?
Aloha, Chair Martin, Vice Chair Amato, and members of the committee. My name is Daniela Spoto, representing Hawaii Appleseed today. We stand in strong support of this measure, as Department of Human Services mentioned. This would really help children during the summer. There's an alarming spike in childhood hunger during the summertime when school is out. Nearly 50% of Hawaii's children rely on free or reduced price meals from school. And when school is out, they lose access to those meals, and that budgetary item then falls on the families to cover. We saw this during the pandemic. A program called Pandemic EBT came in to provide funds to families when school was out. This program is a little bit different and will require a different kind of partnership between the two state agencies, Department of Education and Department of Human Services. And this bill will provide the needed administrative support for those agencies to work together and implement the program so that those children could receive that cash. I think the 177 number was for the entire summer for the summer of 2024. There are estimates that about 100,000 children in Hawaii would be eligible for this program. Based on those numbers, it's nearly $18 million in federal funds that would be drawn down into the state that would be directly supporting local businesses, local food retailers, and farmers. So in addition to helping those families, it would really support our local economy, and we think this is a really small investment for the state to make in order for us to help feed those families. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also have the Hawaii Public Health Institute in person.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Nate Hicks with Hawaii Public Health Institute. And yeah, this is free money from the feds. We can just sign up and get it and help feed our families. It's a lot of money, and we just need to allow our families to participate who need it. So I think this is a great opportunity. We don't want to leave this money on the table. And so yeah, please pass this bill. Mahalo. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have on Zoom the Hawaii Food Industry Association.
Good afternoon again, or morning, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Alexis Chapman for HFIA. We are in strong support of this measure. Regrettably, Hawaii actually has one of the highest instances of childhood food insecurity in the nation, and we believe that this is a really important step to addressing that. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you very much. We also had written testimony in support from the Office of the Governor, comments from the State Procurement Office, and support from Hawaii Farm Bureau, Hawaii Children's Action Network's PEACE, and one individual. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure on Zoom or in person? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for your testimony. And we're going to move on to our next measure, which is HB 2462, relating to the Electronic Prescription Accountability System. Again, administration bill. And first up, we have, we don't have anyone who signed up actually to testify in person, but we do have Department of Human Services who supported this in writing. Does anybody wish to testify on this measure? Seeing none, there's no one to ask questions of. So we will move on to our next bill, which is HB 2739. This is relating to energy assistance, the Hawaii Home Energy Assistance Program, which helps households both pay their energy bills and also reduce their consumption by making their energy more efficient, their energy use more efficient. And first up for this bill, we have the Department of Human Services in person.
Aloha and good morning, Chair Martin, Vice Chair Amato, and committee members. My name is Elisa Furtado Fisher with the Department of Human Services, Benefit, Employment, and Support Services Division, Financial Assistance Program Office. The DHS, we appreciate the intent of this bill and have provided comments, and we stand on our written testimony, and we're available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have DCCA, Michael Angelo in person.
Chair Martin, Vice Chair Amato, members of the committee. My name is Mickey Knox. I'm here for Michelangelo. We stand on our written testimony and support. We're available for any questions.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Hawaiian Electric.
Good morning, Chair Martin, Vice Chair Amato, and members of the committee. My name is Noelle Kakimoto, and I'm testifying on behalf of Hawaiian Electric in support of HB 2739. We stand on our written testimony, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Blue Planet Foundation.
Good morning, Chair Martin, Vice Chair Amato, members of the committee. I'm Jody Robinson from Blue Planet.
We are in strong support of this measure. This is the first time this bill has been introduced. So I just want to articulate some of the points on why we think it's so important to pass this measure this session. As you all know, Hawaii has the highest electricity rates in the country, and electricity costs have gone up on every island, and rates of utility assistance needs as well as disconnections have also gone up in the past couple of years. And we know that according to Aloha United Way, about 44% of our families are barely making it paycheck to paycheck, including their utility bills. Now, there is a federal program that provides assistance to low-income homes to pay for their energy assistance program. Unfortunately, Hawaii does receive the least amount in federal funding out of all 50 states. In 2022, this was shy of $8 million, and it was actually 50% less than the second lowest state. And this is due to like a 1980s formula where they prioritize both heating and cooling needs, and because we don't have any heating needs, we kind of receive the least amount in the country. There are national estimates that this program that currently serves about 9,000 families, there are over 110,000 families that are actually eligible if we were to expand the program and create a kind of complementary state-level assistance program. There's a huge need here that this state program could help to bridge this gap. The changes made to the program from the federal program to allow for energy assistance and home weatherization upgrades are also very welcomed and timely. As we know, energy efficiency is the most cost-effective way for us to reduce our energy consumptions and drive down electricity bills over the long term. So we welcome that changes and that flexibility in the state-level program. There are many other states who have done this, so we implore you to support this measure. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have the Public Utilities Commission.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is Eric Sipper, and I'm a utility analyst at the PUC. We stand on our testimony in support of this bill, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have Hawaii Energy.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair. My name is Chester Carson for Hawaii Energy. We will also stand our written testimony in support, and we're here for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We also received written testimony in support from the Department of Budget and Finance, from Renew Rebuild Hawaii, and from Hawaii Green Infrastructure Authority. Is there anyone else wishing to testify on this measure? Seeing none. Members, are there any questions? Nope, very clear bill. Thank you very much. We will move on to our last measure, which is relating to sexual exploitation, establishes safe harbor protections for survivors of sexual exploitation who seek medical or law enforcement assistance, HB 2183. And we received written testimony in support from Imua Alliance and 2 individuals. Is there anyone wishing to testify on this measure? In person or in Zoom. I was a little disappointed that we did not get any testimony from the prosecutor's office or the attorneys general's, as I'm not able to evaluate this bill fully on my own. But with that, we're going to recess for decision making. We'll come back in just a short time. Aloha, we are reconvening for decision-making. On the first bill, which is HB 2713 for adoption assistance, we will just defect, or the chair recommends defecting the effective date and passing without amendment. Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Thank you. Voting on HB 2713, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendment.
Yeah, all of them have at least one amendment.
Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Representative Bellotti?
Aye.
Representative Iligan? Aye. Representative Kobayashi?
Aye.
Representative Takanuchi? Aye. Representative Nishimoto, excused. Representative Garcia?
Aye.
Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. Next, we have HB 2426 on resource caregivers. And we'll only have some technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and pass it out with that amendment.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Voting on HB 2426, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments. Noting the presence of all members, Chair and Vice Chair voting aye. Are there any members voting no? Any members with reservations? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendations are adopted.
Thank you very much. On HB 2428, the Child Protective Act, the chair recommends passing out with an amendment, technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, defecting the date, but noting in the committee report the department desired date of July 1st, 2025, and then adopting the judiciary amendments as provided in their written testimony as follows. Page 1 from line 7, defining exigent circumstances. For that, we'll delete, quote, and temporary foster custody. And then on line 10, delete pursuant to section 587A11(9). Then on page 5, line 2, where requirements for protective custody by police officer are described, add, quote, the officer determines that exigent circumstances are present. Include the following phrase, and that based on specific and articulable evidence, there is a reasonable cause to believe that immediately assuming protective custody of a child is necessary to protect the child from serious harm that is likely to occur before a court order can be obtained. Then on page 10, line 14, item 9, add in, file a petition pursuant to section 587A-12 before seeking the order for protective custody. Line 17, item A, strike, the court orders under this paragraph may be obtained upon written application by the department without notice and without a hearing, and instead include the department may contemporaneously file an ex parte motion for immediate protective custody, and the court may issue an order of protective custody without notice and without a hearing. Page 11, line 11, replace application with ex parte motion. Page 11, line 12, delete, again, if the department assumes temporary foster custody of the child pursuant to an order for protective custody under this paragraph, shall proceed in accordance with section 587A, 9B, and replace that instead with, quote, after the court rules on the ex parte motion, the case shall proceed pursuant to section 578A-12C. And that way we will have, on this very important measure, we'll have something moving through the House as well that the judiciary can consider before it crossover. So everybody is well-versed and has any questions answered early on in the process. With that, Vice Chair, that is my recommendation. Please take the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on HB 2428, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the presence of all members. Are there any members voting with reservations? Are there any members voting no?
No vote.
No vote for Representative Garcia. Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next, we have HB 2405, the one on peer support specialists, which is just a fantastic program I know in DHS now. With this one, the chair recommends technical amendments needed for clarity, consistency, and style, and defecting the date. Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on HB 2405, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the presence of all members. Are there any members with reservations or any members voting no? Seeing none, thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. Next up, we had HB 2555 on the Child Protective Act. On this measure, there are some concerns that the
Yes.
introducer is working on, and we will defer this one till our Thursday agenda and take up decision-making at that time after we've had time to consider some amendments. Next up, we have HB 1661, expanding the SNAP benefits to people 300% of the poverty line or lower. This one, there are a lot of issues. The biggest issue being that we do not know how much it will cost and the resources needed. It would take the department some time to do this, so I think we will defer this measure with the goal of coming back next year with all the information and a detailed plan worked out with the department that would be administering it. So that's my recommendation to defer this one. The next one, HB 2181, also on SNAP, setting up the working group with beneficiaries. The chair recommends passing this one out with some amendments. Page 3, line 6, include that the recipients can be either current or former recipients of SNAP, as we know how easily one can lose those benefits when one earns a little bit more, and they will be paid for this. So we would hate for participation in this program to rule them out if they go above that line. On page 5, line 2, take out the appropriation, defect the date, and note in the committee report that DHS has a preference for starting December 31st, 2024 or later. And that is Chair's recommendation. Vice Chair, please take the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on HB 2181, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the presence of all members. Are there any members voting no?
Voting no.
No vote for Representative Garcia. Any members with reservations? Seeing none, thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. Next one, we have HB 2430, the Summer Electronic Benefits Transfer, the federally funded ones. On this one, Chair recommends some technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style, and then revising the language in Section 2, page 2, lines 16 through 21 to address some of the concerns with procurement. So Section B, to the extent the appropriations or private funds are made available, the department may contract with one or more providers to administer the Summer Electronic Benefits Transfer for Children program. Any contract executed pursuant to this section shall be exempt from, excuse me. I need a moment to check my notes. Any contract executed pursuant to this section shall be exempt from the in compliance with competitive process of chapters 103D and 103F. So delete the references, delete references to appropriations in section 3, but include them all in the committee report. They're on page 3, line 6 and 12, and 18, and page 4, line 2. So Chair recommends passing with those amendments.
Voting on HB 2430, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, noting the continued presence of all members. Are there any members voting no? Any members with reservations? Seeing none, thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Next, we have HB 2462, the Electronic Prescription Accountability System. This is really just allows us to meet our federal requirements on reporting for controlled substances. Chair recommends passing this with technical amendments for clarity, consistency, and style.
Okay, voting on HB 2462, Chair's recommendation, pass with amendments. Are there any members voting no? Any members with reservations? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendations are adopted.
Thank you. Next, we have HB 2739, the Energy Assistance Program. Chair recommends making some minor modifications to page 7, line 18, and page 8, line 6. Take out the appropriations and include those numbers in the committee report and affect the date. Vice Chair for the vote.
Thank you, Chair. Voting on HB 2739, Chair's recommendation is to pass with amendments, And are there any members voting no or any members with reservations? Seeing none, thank you, Chair. You're good.
Last bill is HB 2183, which is on sexual exploitation, allowing commercial sex workers to call in for help without fearing that they will be prosecuted. We unfortunately did not have testimony from the prosecutor's office or the AG's office. I recommend passing this out as is, as it seemed reasonable to me, but not having that background, I will let them weigh in for judiciary. Please take the vote.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Voting on HB 2183, Chair's recommendation is to pass as is, noting the presence of all members. Are there any members voting no, or any members with reservations?
Reservations.
Reservations for Representative Garcia? Thank you, Chair. Your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you very much. We are adjourned.